Welcome, Fadel. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Before I really would love to give kudos to Hollis and all the team, particularly Neil and Mark. I've met Neil and Mark about 7, 8 years ago. They're doing a kind of leadership program with the K company, as we call it in Kuwait, which involved all the managers and the vice presidents and obviously CEOs. And they were giving us a lot of things about authenticity 7, 8 years ago. And when you go to the Arab world, it was quite difficult to understand. And I think Neil said yesterday, uh, very few people understand the difference between leadership and management. And we've been through so many courses over the last 28 years, and still there's a lot of confusion. But I got to meet them, and then when I moved to, because I was working 28 years now in the Q8 business, which is owned by Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, and we have retail operations all over, well, not all over Europe, in specific regions. And I met them and I said, listen, I'm moving to retail. I'd like some help because I like the guys a lot. So I have to say to Neil, they've had a profound impact on me personally and personally on my team and the whole organization. So what you see today is a lot of it, you would recognize the Holos impact on it and the language that we have. And we really miss seeing Neil and Mark here. They've helped us tremendously, and I owe a lot of debt to them. It's been profound. But anyway, so I really want to, and Tessa and everybody to hold us. But we wanted to start this is, are you brave enough to change your future, particularly when you talk about an oil company? Because we have always the bad rap and that we are the carbon polluters and everything. So I think the title of the presentation was Decarbonization from Within. And I look at it, we also have to decarbonize ourselves as humans too, because, you know, we've got carbon too. So we need to actually start with ourselves to be able to decarbonize and deal with the existential threat, which I thought it was at the beginning. But you need a lot of, I can't say brevity or bravery to change the future, or at least to start into the future. So I'm going to take you through a few slides, and hopefully you'll have some questions we can go through with at a base enough. What I always do, even in this slides, you will see the transformation, how we done. But I wanted to start with a traditional, you know, this is our traditional footprint. Whenever I present to everybody, say, well, you know, we have 700 gas stations. When I say Northwest Europe, you will hear that word a lot, which is basically the Benelux region, the Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. So we have a very strong presence over the last 33 years. We've built up, you know, a sizable and successful business. And these are some of the staff in terms of the number of people, the diversity between female and male, where we located, the number of liters, the volumes, and the number of stations. As you can see here, there's 5 stations only with compressed natural gas. So it's very much a traditional oil company. And, you know, we're very proud in terms of the brand that we have built and the services we offer to our customers over the last 30 plus years. But we also have to be appreciated in terms of the great people we get to work with and the hard work that we all put in and the support we get from our shareholders in running and growing our business. So this is the traditional footprint that we had coming in. So, but what happens is, to move on next, this is just to show you a bit of a timeline. The oil companies were traditionally about acquisitions. And we started in 93 by acquiring the Gulf and BP and Aral. And there were, innovation was, I would say, really limited was in 2005, but that was driven by cost. Because obviously, if you remember the days in the UK a long time ago when the people went out, the truckers, and blocked all the roads, they were complaining about the duties and taxes, which I think it was during the Blair times. And that obviously the cost structure. So the biggest innovation we did in the last 20 years was we rolled out an automat concept in the Belgium, where it's completely automated. People will come in, put their cards, fuel up, and leave. So that was kind of like a big thing as an innovation. But in general, the oil industry, you know, has provided us the, you know, the energy and the lubricants we all use to transport goods. to grow the economies. And it did contribute substantially to the affluence and variety that we all enjoy today. But Q8 has been built on these foundations since 1983, 86. And, it's been really as good as possibly can at serving the customer needs. So our job was, to get the fuel in the tank of our customers and provide them with other conveniences. I mean, most of you, if you want to buy your cigarettes, your bit of alcohol, you go through the store, and we wanted to do this reliably. So we've been very good at that, and our customers did actually reward us with the revenues and the profit to sustain our business. And the last thing, as you notice here, there's in 17, there's electric fast chargers. I want you to remember that number because it's an important, which is also IUNITY, which is a collaboration with the EU. They wanted to have every 120 kilometers a super fast charger. So actually, you need the infrastructure to actually electrify the transport industry. And the last thing we did, which was the 1st of March last year, we've acquired another 75 station, which really took us to be number one in size in the Benelux region right now, particularly in the Belgium. But more importantly, we have our eye on the future. So you've all seen this. When I joined Northwest Europe about 4 years ago, I was 12 years before that in the aviation sector, which I thought was an amazing business, very much B2B. We used to hear about Elon Musk and his revolution. A lot of people ask, well, why didn't you plan for this? Well, 4 years ago, nobody knew. There were a lot of talk, but nobody actually did something about it to actually challenge the transport industry. So, but I really need to tell you that the industry is transforming. I mean, we've got three major issues in Europe that even when I met with the EU on the energy sector, these are the three items that really matters to them today in terms of regulation moving forward: the decarbonization and the digitization of the world and the aging of the European population. Unfortunately, with COVID, it's really having a major impact on aging, but it's having a profound impact on digitization. And now on decarbonization, things are slowing down. So the time is very interesting, but directionally, we're still going towards the decarbonization and the digitization. Now, you see, this is all partly driven by technology and driven by our need and by the need of everybody to protect the climate. And we know that the transport is electrifying. And this is a Mark Thompson comment, when I love that, the transport is electrifying. And particularly in the Netherlands, I don't know if you've been in the Netherlands, it's one of the leading countries in this transformation. I think they've got the highest percentage of electric cars of any country, and one of the highest percentages of new cars in electric, obviously driven by the fiscal policy too. And I think the Netherlands will be one of the first countries to ban the sale of the ICE, the internal combustion engine cars, in 2030. But you heard that, everybody, because it became a trend. UK is going to do it by 2040. UK wants to be carbon neutral by 50. BP, Shell, everybody's actually that. But it's not just oil companies, the decarbonization. It affects everybody. And if you don't use the word sustainability now, it's a bit sacrilegious. So the vocabulary is also changing. But our instant reaction as oil company on retail, well, we've had a non-existential threats ever before. This is really an existential threat for us going forward. But when you start to really look at it, but to us in Northwest Europe, it was about, well, how do we embrace these challenges? And how do you make them into real commercial opportunities? Because at the end of the day, we like making profit too, because, we're in business to make money too. But we wanted to embrace it, lead it, and be more innovative. And what I mean by more innovative, it's a topic that really sits on my mind a lot. It's not about a single innovation. Innovation has been a human history since a human came to this world. Innovation has been the biggest part of humanity. It is incremental. It's not exponential at times, but technology has made that exponential. So it's very interesting. But we like to call it a collective innovation or hyper innovation. So we wanted to set, really, for the team, for the business, challenging targets and build an organization to take in this, this global megatrends, who are actually local disruptions. And This also includes to rethink of the type and the nature of people we recruit. In general, we always recruited oil company people. Now we're recruiting companies from technology companies, from startups, from different people more in the digitization world. We're not interested in people who actually know how to sell fuel. It's not about that anymore for us. So with these three elements, and as a business, so the question was, do we fight it? And we have a lot of people in the world still fighting it. I think Neil mentioned yesterday ESSO, Exxon, they in denial. So they started to fight it. Now they're trying to change their tone. Do we align with it to get a better understanding of our capabilities? Because we need to know, are we ready for this? Do we have the capability? Do we have the leadership to do this? Do we defend against it? Or we find ways to truly harness it? You know, we believe oil will always be a massive part of our business and will remain so. There'll be an energy mix. Oil will always be there because you can't decarbonize. The world took 100 years to decarbonize. It's not going to take 100 years to decarbonize, but it will not also take 5 years to decarbonize. So the energy mix is very important. It will not go away, oil will always be there. But we want it to be a responsible kind of collective innovator. And at the same time, we're not looking to make oil obsolete. It is our backbone to get us where we are and will remain so for the years to come. So we have to balance all of that coming together. And so this is when actually Hollis came into the picture in 2018, 2, 3 years ago. Obviously, we had a shareholder strategy says, well, okay, maintain and enhance your business, and your strategy is to work on digitization and offer services that are non-fuel. But that was it. But we wanted to actually develop a more cohesive strategy. Uh, I learned one thing about everybody says to me, and you see it everywhere, oh, we're part of the family. But Neil actually taught me a lesson about that. And Neil said, yes, it's very interesting to be part of a family, but families is a sacrosanct entity, and people love there because of the bond and everything. But families and organization are very different. Because in families, he says to me, we all work together to achieve different objectives for your brothers, your sisters, your cousin. But an organization, you need to achieve the main objective for the organization. So yes, you're in a family, but to achieve a single thing. And to do that is very critical. And how do you do that? So he really changed my outlook, because everywhere we go, organize, oh, we're a great family. But at the end of the day, we need to reach the objective. So we started this vision a couple of years ago. We brought everybody in the organization, and we felt, you know what, we're going to start this bottom up, because we have a sophisticated consumer and we have a sophisticated employee base who want sustainability, who want to decarbonize. So, you know, the mentality from within is changing a lot. So we had to really work towards that. And I think with the advent of the God, as I call them, Google, information is available for everybody. So we're all bombarded with this information, whether it's this information. So we knew our workforce and our customers are much more sophisticated than they ever, and they're demanding more. So we put all these things together, and we knew there were a lot of battles we have to win, and they are not easy. Obviously, the number one was digital transformation. How do we become flexible and mobile? We even thought about mobility and flexibility in terms of working outside the office before COVID. So that helped us a lot to think about it. What kind of behaviors do we need? You know, are we really talented through teams? Now we segment our people, who's very interesting. You're a manager and you're a talent. So everybody's a talent in the organization. We're changing the vocabularies. More importantly, as we all talk about, we have a fantastic, what we call a Be Well program, to look at the health and well-being of people. How do we de-stress people to be able to achieve? We're asking more and more of the people than ever before. And if we really don't work towards that, we're gonna have a lot of nervous breakdowns, a lot of mental issues, and it's gonna derail us. But at the end of the day, that was an important area. And the last one is license to operate. So we came with 5 key strands in our business. Both, you know, a lot of it is cultural, and I love the CEO of Microsoft. He was on the picture of one of the influencers in the world. He said the C is actually called a culture executive officer. I am not the chief executive officer. And I love that because when people ask me, what do you do? Yeah, I'm the managing director. Well, what does that mean? I love the word to be called the culture executive director. And that's really where I'm working on. You've got to do a lot of work. And it's not an easy job because sometimes being at the top of the organization, it could be a lonely place. But when we came up with these 5 strands, and the priority is our customer. Before the advent of decarbonization, customers were just coming in because they had to. Now we have to fight for it. So now we're on a program of customer centricity. It's the foundation for us and our people in the organization. We have a kind of a nice little formula. Everybody understands formula because it makes a lot of sense. Was CX equals EX. Our customer experience equals our employee experience. So you can't just work on your employee experience and not think of your customer experience. But also from a business point of view, like I said, the foundation of our business, we need to make that better. This is the machine as the reliable, the fixing, the keep cranking the wheel. And we need to do this reliably and better. And becoming a mobility player, and also, which is sometimes our shareholders cannot understand, what do you mean mobility in terms of electromobility? But we live in a different world. So we are actually taking that on. And I ask you to remember the number, and I will show you the number later on. So we came up with a strategy in terms of a vision, which we called it sustainable mobility and services for every customer journey. Then Mark and Neil came in and said, no, 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 we cannot, it has to be more. So that, they came back and said, every customer's journey is sustainable. So I put a lot of effort towards Hollis, Mark and Neil, and refining that for us. And now it's much easier for everybody. So everybody's talking the same language. As a family, one objective, every customer journey is sustainable. But effectively, we did not know how to achieve this vision to begin with. This is a new territory, but that's something we all need to work together to define. And that's what we did as a group. And what we do now is that it will need us to change the way we actually work and the ways we behave. And the behavior becomes so critical, just like your kid, because you worry about the behaviors, you teach them the rights and wrongs. And it's the same thing here, but on a mature level in terms of behaviors. I'll give you a real example. Somebody will walk in the morning, doesn't say good morning, and goes into the office, shut the door. That behavior is not acceptable in that kind of level. So these little things where we're trying to work on behaviors. It's a shame sometimes you have to tell a 60-year-old person, can you behave properly, please? So we need to work a lot on these things. Okay. So I think, because I see the pictures on the right, if you can see in terms, but we wanted to build a leadership program. So Neil and Mark, the expertise to come in is to help us to build the program. How do we actually, I always say, it's not just about you and your leadership team. There's 400 people also we have to get on the journey. So as a result of this, we needed to transform our company. What you see on the left is the effective management, as we called, as yesterday were mentioned, is where about the reliability and the fixing. But we wanted to go to effective leadership, which takes into account the 5 pillars that I mentioned earlier: the engage and enable, becoming mobility player. And we needed to recognize this, and we needed to take the people with us. There's a real, this is motivated, sustained, deep level of trust and honest and open and authentic leadership. What I mean by trust, that's the first thing we worked on, the first thing that we worked on with our team, particularly on the leadership level. If my upskilling of my directors and my leadership team do not trust each other, there's no way we can achieve anything. And that was the hardest job we had to do. And we spent a lot of work on this one. And I have to say, the level we've achieved, the level of trust between myself and the leadership team has traveled so well down the organization that we really work heavily. And it's not a program that you can start and finish. Trust has to be worked on. A lot of people in the UK, when I was working, says, Fadel, trust is earned, is you're not born with it. So and that makes sense. So I will come back on the accountability, collaboration, experimentation in a second for now. But this, I think this is the one, for some reason the slides got up. But we knew in terms of the innovation journey, I mean, if you look at that slide, it's a bit doctored because the innovation all the way to adaptability. But the way we looked at it, it was called disruption. So as a result of this transformation, we wanted to transform our company. It's not just simply transforming from one product to another product, but it really requires for us to rethink deeply about our business, from our vision to the way we lead, our cultures and our way of working. We need to move from being a conventional business, which I say innovation is a given in terms of repeating the process. We've always done that, repeat it and with occasional improvements and working harder to get faster. So that to me is the conventional side of the business. To the post-conventional, as I call the new reality that we as an oil company have to, where our business, we need to be both transformational in a sense and reliable at the same time. And I think that's where it really gets complicated, and the complexity of it is wonderful. But in setting our transformation journey, like this for our organization, like I said, we need to take our people with us. You can't just do it on your own. But we also believe innovation efforts are not enough in themselves. I think we need to chase a more dynamic collective innovation. When people says, what do you know about innovation? Every time I go to a course or speaking, they talk about innovation as it was created 5 years ago. It's insane for me, and it's confusing everybody because everywhere, oh, I want to be innovative. What does that mean? So we like to work on a collective innovation to challenge our organization to do better all the time. But one thing is, in our world and decarbonization, time is getting tighter to secure the high ground. So we need to keep pushing harder to go there faster. We need to chase and sustain this collective innovation, and at the same time, try to optimize our current business that allows us to do these innovations. If I'm doing well on my current business, it's giving me the space to develop the other business and to create commercial opportunities and to decarbonize. So if I wasn't making profits on my existing business, it'll be very difficult to move forward because the shareholder will automatically say, oh, you're not doing very well, let's go to a cost-cutting exercise. And that's something we wanted to avoid. We wanted to do well to give us the space to create and actually innovate collectively. So time is getting tighter for me, and we wanted to actually do something about it. So I'm going to go back in the slide. So I do come back to this development journey. When we started this development journey to move from this post-conventional to a conventional behavior, we wanted to obviously adapt our culture and upskill our more senior leaders, on which we've done effectively with Holos. But at the same time, we didn't know, we couldn't wait for a leadership development program to develop our leadership. As you know, leadership happens at work. It's not just on a program. Program supplements it and just gives it a bit of a beef on it. We felt, and we discussed it, that there were a few things that we could do to develop our view and how to approach leading and managing. We didn't want to send people on a course with the difference between leadership and management. That was not on our books anymore. So, but we started to talk of privately reflecting on our styles, because you need to challenge yourself with a view to create more adaptability. We need to adapt to the environment, and people don't like to adapting. Right now, we're adapting to COVID because we're forced to adapt. So we wanted to adapt willingly. We wanted to look at different areas of our working style and closely identify where we can delegate more. One of the biggest area we found is we're too much of a micromanagers. We don't mention that. But right now, micromanagement disappeared when you start working from home. So you see the different levels of how, it was a big, I would say, nearly endemic issue with micromanagement because the way we were looking at it. But now that kind of disappeared and is parked. So eventually in future, if we come back to the office, we're going to make sure that micromanagement remains outside unless where it's really needed. So we wanted to identify, look at different approaches to separate projects where we need to lead better, which is you want to create change, where you need to manage effectively, which is the reliability, the cranking the wheel. And now the cranking of the wheel is not manual, it's electric. So we got to really start moving towards that. We can simply offer the support. So we started talking to our people saying, well, when you explain to them what we are doing and why, it's an effective way of creating more delegation and more accountability in the team, and to get some feedback from the peers, and ask about your leadership style. Because I think what was said yesterday about authentic leadership, which is about character, or about the leadership, management leadership, which is about status. And a national oil company in Kuwait, the status trumps the character. So we are going against our own shareholders in Kuwait. And I remember somebody says to me, Father, whatever you're doing, does the shareholder know what you're doing? I said, of course, by all means, that I have the 100% support. Actually, that was not true, but I believe we're actually doing that. So, so if I go back to the three behaviors, I do accountability, collaboration, experimentations. We felt this will be the three behaviors, and particularly that will become more important. So we wanted to collaborate more than ever to work out how we achieve our vision and then make it happen. And we started with the works of collaboration in the past, and right now, and even on Microsoft Teams and what we do our work, we've used that tool to help us to collaborate and connect more. We wanted to experiment. I'm an engineer by education, so trial and error is really an important part of my ethos and my way of my approach and methodology. So I actually wanted to experiment with ideas, new tools, a system, and new ways of working. So we just need to get comfortable that things will not always work out, and and learn rapidly for these occasions. We started something called fund for failure. So I was telling my staff, I'm going to give you a fund for failure, and people were just so scared. I said, what do you mean? I'm going to give you some money for your idea, go fail. And we went through the whole iterative process. I went through it, and I have to admit that failed in itself, which we learned a lot from the fact that people were not ready for failing. They didn't like the idea of the failing, and I wish we have a vaccine against failure. Should not be the problem. You shouldn't worry about failure, but you have to worry about to trust yourself that you can actually, if you fail, you can come out of it. That's really an important aspect, because sometimes you can't control that you fail. There's a lot of influences, but can you handle the failure is what we're trying to get people to work on. And the last thing is about accountability, where each of us individually are more accountable to what we do and how we do it, as we move from this conventional priorities of getting good at doing one thing to getting great at continue reinventing what we do and how we do it. And it's a lot of work for leadership. It is just an enormous amount of work, but I would say highly satisfying. Right.
Fadel, I just wanted to want to give you a time check. We've actually we've got a minute left.
That's all I need right now. Okay.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah,
No, it's perfect.
you.
I mean, I was so nervous last night, but now I'm like, I can go on. I can speak for England.
You're doing brilliantly.
Thank you so much. And now this is the slide that traditionally what I put together the area. You see, I've always been inspired and motivated by theory, and but I never forgot my passion with delivery and reality. Never really did. That's really what I love to do and gives me satisfaction. And that's my job with my great executive team. I have a phenomenal executive team that responded so well to Neil and Mark. And it's not just about diversifying and diluting, but it's more about diversifying, strengthening, and reinforcing our business. People and businesses not doing this, I think they're sleepwalking into a wall. Now, theory is great, but my job to practice and revenue streams. It's about having great people deliver and sustainably deliver on these promises and commercial aspiration for our shareholder. This is what the reality is for our business today. So now, when I go out and present Q8, I don't present the numbers, the traditional footprint. I say I have now 80,000 electric charges points that people can use. I started with 17 3 years ago. Now have 80,000. We are now produced our first sustainable report ever. We've never had that before. I won the title of being the most sustainable fuel company in the Benelux, and that's one of my personal targets. We have HVO sites now. We have CNG sites. We have liquefied natural gas sites. We have solar panels all over our gas stations. We are providing digital solutions in terms of app to help us with the mobility, whether it's parking apps, insurance, And we have our new loyalty scheme, which we call Smiles. Every time you fill up a liter, you get a smile. We have an electric offer. And more importantly, we have a Be Well campaign. We build trees, we do marathons, and every kilometer you build trees. So now, when I go out and tell them what you ate, this is who we are. I don't say how many number of sites we have. I don't care about the number of sites. I care about this right now. So that's really the transformation that we've seen in the last 3 years, to go from a traditional, but this is just the beginning. This is where we are today. And I'm really proud of what we've done as a company, and the perception in the industry starting to change. And this is really the last slide. And it's something that we're really, really continuing to develop and becoming more of a sustainable player. The end.
Thank you, Fadel. That was
Thank you.
brilliant.
Thank
Just
you.
to share some feedback from Mark Denton, an impressive transformation, Fadel. You should be proud.
Thank you.
From Fiona, you are fantastic, a wonderful example of an authentic leader. And from Karen, thanks so much for sharing this inspirational work. Amazing, amazing stuff. Thank you so much.